Well, they were considered to be very talented, the three Korean pop stars or ex-pop stars who all killed themselves this year. All in their 20s, with money in the bank. Why did they do it? Sulli was just 25. She was beautiful and popular, but ended it all in October. The following month, 28-year-old Goo Hara posted this last picture on Instagram. "Good night," she wrote, before taking her own life. Then, in December, 27-year-old Cha In-ha was found dead by his manager. 3 months, 3 apparent suicides. What drove them to it? Was it their time in K-pop with controlling and exploitative managers? Was it the cyberbullying by jealous and possessive fans? Or is there something wrong with Korean society more broadly? We'll be asking our guests in just a moment, but first a quick look at how we got here.
The phenomenon of K-pop, or Korean pop, is sweeping the planet.
K-pop sensations Blackpink, BTS.
K-pop has crafted a new path for world pop domination.
Aspiring artists are usually scouted by or audition for management companies. If selected, they are groomed, mentored, and intensely trained from a young age by managers or agents for years before recording their first song.
I believe it's really narrow to just pin it down to some kind of musical genre. It's a cultural scene. It's a social phenomenon.
A popular K-pop star who had long been the target of abusive online comments has died. Sulli, a former member of the top girl group FX, was found dead in her home earlier today. She suspended her career in 2014 after struggling with the impact of cyberbullying.
Sad news to be sharing with you right now. Former K-pop band member Goo Hara was found dead in her home in Seoul, South Korea. She was 28 years old, a former member of the K-pop group Kara.
It is so sad that she had to suffer from vicious, inhumane comments just because she was a celebrity.
Another South Korean star, Cha In-ha, was found dead at his home. Cha made his film debut in 2017 and was previously a member of boy band Surprise You.
It's the third death in 2 months of young Korean stars. Goo Hara was found dead at home of an apparent suicide. That follows the death of Sulli. Both had spoken out about cyberbullying.
It casts a dark cloud over the country's lucrative entertainment industry and drives debate about the intense social pressure artists have to face.
Well, many issues to discuss, and we have a great panel to go through them with. And at the top there, we have the singer-songwriter Elise, a young American woman who tried very hard to break into K-pop, even spending 6 months in South Korea. Joining us from South Korea's capital, Seoul, we have Yim Hyun-soo, a K-pop journalist for the Korea Herald. And also in Seoul, we have David Kim, a co-host of a popular YouTube show all about K-pop. It's an incredible industry, David. You're also doing a master's degree in it. For our viewers around the world who don't understand how big K-pop is and what it is, can you just explain?
Well, K-pop is a popular genre in Korean music, and everybody likes it. It has a distinct style of where you have a lot of people inside a group, and they are very well trained and extremely talented. And it has so many aspects that are likable towards the global audience. So it's currently very globalized, and all around the world, people are going crazy over K-pop, basically.
The thing is, David, it is incredibly popular, as you say, but these last 3 months, October, November, December, every month we've had a high-profile suicide or an unexplained death as things stand. Is there something wrong with the K-pop industry, something rotten that's pushing these people?
I would say there are always side effects to an extremely successful model or an industry, and definitely for the past few months there have been very tragic events. It's very sad to see these events happening, and I think there are various reasons to this, but mostly in Korea the common consensus is the highly competitive society and a lot of hate or cyberbullying going around the K-pop industry.
Elise, you wanted to be a K-pop pop star, if you like, very much. You even went to South Korea for 6 months. We'll get to that a little later, but in the meantime, You heard the horror stories about the industry, the difficulties, sacrifices, and privations that you have to go through in order to be the best. Give us some of those examples.
Yeah, so you have very strict rules. There's the no dating rule, for one. When you become a K-pop trainee, sometimes you can't even be visited by your family, and they also take your phones away. So not just so that you can concentrate on your training, but that there's no distractions and that also no news gets out that you're a K-pop trainee. Also, I can't forget their very crazy diets. So the point that sometimes they actually starve themselves, which is pretty ridiculous.
Because what, the record labels or the managers actually weigh them and check them?
Yes, they do, yeah.
Oh. Hyun-soo, it sounds like a very controlled industry with the executives, keeping an eye on how much they weigh and to highly and strongly suggest that they have cosmetic surgery and so on. Is it an industry that needs scrutiny, that needs opening up?
Well, it definitely needs to open up in the sense that compared to Western pop artists, let's say, just based on my experience, let's say when questions are asked that are political, even in the slightest, and it's hard for them to answer because they have this perfect image that they need to maintain. And political questions, for instance, can be quite risky. So I guess in that sense, K-pop idols do need to open up. But at the same time, the change, I think, is already happening. There's an artist called Holland, which I recently interviewed, and he was able to speak freely about issues like mental health, skinny shaming. So K-pop needs to open up more to be more authentic. But the change, I think, is slowly but surely underway, in my view.
Well, we've had an overview of the industry. Now let's take a look at each of these three young people. Let's start with Sulli. And some of the harshest comments directed towards her focused on her decision to stop wearing a bra. Here are some of the comments made after she posted a picture of herself not wearing one. I'm sure her parents are pretty upset that their daughter is the talk of the town like this. She is a national prostitute, another one said. If you don't have any shame or morality, then you're no different to a pig. David, if I can come to you for a moment. In many societies, especially in the West, it's absolutely nobody's business, especially a high-profile figure, what kind of undergarment they wear. How is it she was under so much scrutiny and pressure and negative kind of publicity for that sort of trivial matter?
Well, I think you have to understand the context of the Korean society. To be honest, objectively, Korea is still a very conservative country, and things such as not wearing bras or underwear is uncommon here, and people notice those things very quickly. And Sulli, as a public figure, she was very liberal about her appearance or what she wore, and people just reacted to that. And since it was something they'd never seen before, they acted as if it's something abnormal, and they just jumped on her. And
I understand she hosted a TV show called The Night of Hate Comments, where she and other celebrities were discussing all the malicious comments directed at them on TV. Let's have a listen at what she made of those sort of comments.
개인의 자유가 아닌가라는 생각이 좀 많이 들었고요. 브라 자체가 건강에도 좋지 않고 쇠가 이렇게 있고 와이어가 있잖아요. 그런 거 자체가 그냥 그 소화기관에도 좋지 않고 한데.
That was put forward as one reason for her to kill herself. She was suffering from the pressure about the bra issue, but also because she had an older boyfriend?
Right. So she made headlines for a number of things, which in certain countries wouldn't have been worthy of headlines. Let's say, not wearing a bra, for instance. So, her death really is a multi-layered one, and we'll never really know, because. But what we can do is the environment that she was in, and we can only guess. And several things that I can think of is the fact that whatever she did, it was under scrutiny, and she was subjected to vicious online comments, which she herself openly addressed. And she also went live on her Instagram to communicate with her fans, but then those opportunities to keep in touch with her fans were sometimes distracted by trolls, some people who went there to criticize or troll her, and she was visibly upset on several occasions.
Right.
So yes, it wasn't just not wearing a bra, but also there was the
Basically upsetting South Korean conventions, yeah? Now, look, Sulli was good friends with Goo Hara, who killed herself a month after her friend. Here's Goo Hara reacting to Sulli's death live on Instagram.
이렇게밖에 인사할 수밖에 없는 게 너무 미안해.
Now, shortly before she killed herself, Goo Hara had one last chat with her fans live on Instagram, a chance for people all over the world to interact with her. And then the night before she killed herself, she posted this last photo and one word: good night. Back to David for a moment. Clearly, Goo Hara, David, was very upset about the death of her friend, but there were other reasons too.
Yes, so she was mourning her friend's death a lot, and she showed her candid emotions on the screen. However, there were internal issues as well because she was cyberbullied for a long time because of some cases related to her ex-boyfriend. Her ex-boyfriend and her had some kind of incidents between each other, and there were like a domestic violence going on, and the ex-boyfriend claimed that she slashed his face with her claws and stuff like that. So there were a lot of allegations going on, and the people of Korea were kind of assuming that Kawada was a violent person, and the ex-boyfriend was threatening her with like footages of them having a relationship and stuff
And
like
she
that.
shared her last moments, basically, with her fans. Why does she feel the need, and other stars feel the need, to keep sharing such private, desperate moments, even before killing themselves?
I think it's because they really don't have a lot of people to talk to around them because they are highly managed and controlled. So they really don't have very close people around them taking care for them. Like even if there's family, you need friends to rely on too as well. But these celebrities get a lot of support and emotional love from these fans. However, they just have to keep on communicating with these fans in order to receive that love and receive that care. So I think she was calling for a last kind of support or emotional support to notify her state and cry for help.
Well, as we've heard, Sulli died in October, Goo Hara November, and then in December, Cha In-ha was found dead in his house by his manager. He left no final message. Get back to David. David, now it's interesting. Cha In-ha was not primarily a K-pop star. He had moved into acting some time ago. So does this sort of pressure build on young stars throughout the entertainment industry?
Yes, for sure. These K-pop idols or celebrities or actors, whatever they are in a highly competitive and conservative society where all the fans and their support control you totally. So even if China wasn't a very famous K-pop star, he could have felt as like a failure because in this competitive society, if you don't make it big, if you don't get the support from a lot of fans, you might have that kind of feeling inside you lingering. So that might be a motive of him going through that tragic event.
You know, the K-pop industry came under scrutiny again this year, not because of their stars being victims, but actually being perpetrators. 2 members of the boy band FT Island were convicted of gang rape. One of them was additionally convicted of filming himself having sex with women without their knowledge. You know, from the outside, Hyun-soo, it looks like a very corrupt and nasty business. Is it any different to any other business in South Korea? Are we exaggerating this?
I'm glad you asked the question because as a K-pop reporter, having been so over the last year and a half, I have seen so many articles that starts with the headline, "The Dark Side of K-pop," really highlighting all the things that have happened and characterizing the whole industry. And yes, this year, lots of fans say it and journalists say it, has been one of the worst years for K-pop. But having said that, what we need to realize is the bigger context here. Issues that are often associated with K-pop, such as mental health, dating violence, or online trolling, those are issues that are not only affecting the people within the K-pop industry, but it also affects the members of the public in Korea. Obviously, K-pop is Korea's music industry, so it is understandable that the social issues that we experience are reflected in the music industry as well. Well, it's not exactly the same in that there is pressure on celebrities, and years of training from a young age can also isolate them from the rest of the world as well. But let's not make the mistake that it is only limited to K-pop.
You know, from the outside, South Korea looks a model of prosperity, not just K-pop, which is strictly produced and a global phenomena, but its whole economy, which has transformed over the past 50 years. And yet, South Korea has a very, very high suicide rate. South Korea's rags to riches story over the past half a century has a dark side. It has the 10th highest suicide rate in the world, 10th out of 193 UN-recognized countries. There are literally war zones and far, far poorer countries where fewer people kill themselves. The suicide rate is highest among the elderly, who, having built this country, are now being neglected by their young, go-getting offspring, who are in turn caught up in one of the most intensely competitive societies in the world. Lonely and poor, the elderly are committing suicide at something like 3 times the rate of the elderly in the United States. There's a problem with the young, too. In America, accidents kill more people under 40 than anything else. In South Korea, the leading cause of death is suicide. A number of factors contribute. In a society that demands perfection, failure to get a job is shameful. While social media has allowed people to connect more easily, it's also led to far more cyberbullying. For example, a barrage of online criticism preceded the deaths of 2 of K-pop's biggest stars in recent months, Sulli and Goo Hara. And there are now concerns that they and others in the showbiz industry are setting a terrible and tragic example for their young, impressionable fans. It's a very important point. We're going to come to that in just a second. David, why does South Korea have such a high suicide rate?
Well, I want to be very careful on this one because it's a highly sensitive and tragic situation. But just to give you my opinion, I think Korea in general is an extremely competitive society. For example, in education or the job employment market, it's very fierce. And if you can't achieve those results, you're basically stigmatized as a failure and also become extremely hard to sustain yourself in reality. So those are one of the reasons that we have a high suicide rate, in my opinion.
And there's a fear that young people might see their idols in K-pop killing themselves and feel in some way that that's normal.
Yes, I think that's an extremely severe problem right now that's going on. And for idols in particular, more than the competitive society, I think the public consensus at the moment is that mostly there are a lot of hate comments and moral corsets these idols are wearing, and they're set by the public and they drive them towards a tragedy. So these idols receive a lot of insults, humiliation, and about their appearances and dating life. So recently, the Korean public is actually phrasing these kind of series of suicide events as like social homicide. So are
there any efforts to help people talk about their problems, to get rid of the mental health taboo?
Well, actually, the public is realizing these problems just now after these series of tragic events, and there are actually petitions going on towards the government, urging congressmen to make laws to actually like ban hate comments by banning anonymous usage of IDs on the internet, and so there are definitely movements going on, but for the current state, I don't think there's a very feasible solution.
Well, let's just circle back to K-pop itself now, and regardless of its scandals, it's still South Korea's biggest cultural export. And we'll get to all the stats in just a moment. But first, let's hear from a young British fan who is just crazy for K-pop.
My name's Izzy, I'm 16 years old and I love K-pop. It was in 2016 I heard my first K-pop song. It was Married to the Music by Trainee. It was like I was watching a movie, but it was like 3 minutes long. This room is a lot, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of colour, and every little gap there's something to do with K-pop. Over here I got some of my posters, and you get posters with the albums that you buy. My BTS ones are here, they're from my Persona albums. I get all of this merchandise from saving up my pocket money, and sometimes I bribe my parents to buy it for me. When I get home from school, I'll pull my phone out of my blazer pocket and I'll quickly check Twitter because I really want to see if there's been like a new update or a new comeback. With the idols, you feel like you're like almost best friends with them because you check them so much. It's kind of weird because I feel like I could like go straight up to them and like have a conversation with them and they don't even know my first name.
Back up to Elise now. I haven't heard from her for a while. Elise, you could probably understand her incredible devotion to K-pop, can't you?
Yes, I can.
And to what extent is that interaction with them over social media, to what extent does that keep you hooked?
I believe so. Like, for instance, BTS, they have a really huge fandom on Twitter. They're like the biggest people on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, we love to interact with our K-pop idols for sure. And it feels like they're easy to like talk to, you know?
Yeah, it's another level, isn't it? Because back in the days of the Beatles and Take That, Backstreet Boys, they would perform, hold concerts, release stuff, and you could read about them or whatever. But this is another level of interaction, right?
Definitely, definitely. Like when they have their live streams on Instagram, or just live streams through VLive, you know, us fans, we can interact.
What made
in
you
real
go
time.
out to South Korea for 6 months?
Yeah, so I got into K-pop in 2006, but I didn't start auditioning for K-pop until 2011. And what got me into it was just, it was different. I started to feel a change with me and my music. I felt more like that's my style. I felt that they were more conservative with their dressing style. And also I felt that there was more opportunities there since they were having auditions. Here in the States, it's the only auditions.
So how far did you get?
So I auditioned online. I was signed as a K-pop artist, singer-songwriter for the company. And I was there for only 6 months. The company, they were open for like a year and a half when I got signed. So pretty much towards the end when I was there, they were like, you know, because we were shopping songs around at the end. So if there's no labels that pick up the songs or anything like that, then pretty much this company is kaput.
And you didn't quite make it into, you know, one of the girl groups.
I didn't, unfortunately. Yeah.
What do you think held you back?
Pretty much it had nothing to do on my part. I don't know really what the vision was for that company. Had I asked, I definitely would have told me a lot more about what they're looking for. I think in the end, they were probably just looking for like that hit song. And once you have the hit song, then the company can grow from there.
And there's not much diversity in K-pop. I mean, they're generally Koreans, right?
Yes. There are some that are non-Korean though.
Right.
It's mainly Asian-based though.
And
K-pop.
considering everything you've heard over the past year in particular, do you regret not being able to make it into a K-pop band, or are you happy you had a narrow escape?
A little bit of both, actually. After learning more about the industry and seeing how it is for these idols. I enjoy being able to control my artistry and what I do. But that doesn't mean that I can't also get my own type of bullies online, because I have had comments, even to me, that are just unacceptable, So.
Yeah. Well, that's what was described as the hater culture.
Yeah.
And that's global, isn't it, really? Elise, thank you so much. And also, thank you, Yim Hyun-soo and David Kim. Thank you for helping our global audience to understand K-pop a little more today. Appreciate it. And thank you at home for watching. Until next week, goodbye.